Hello, everyone, and welcome to the One Big Idea Lightning Talks event. My name is Lisa Hayamoto. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning at Lion Publishers. And today I am thrilled to introduce to you some of our incredible people with incredible ideas within our membership. If you don't already know, Lion, which stands for Local Independent Online News, is proud to provide teaching, resources, and community to nearly 400 independent news businesses across the United States and Canada. Today's Lightning Talks are meant to embody the strength of our mission and our community, as 7 of our members share one big idea that positively impacted their news businesses this year. These out-of-the-box offerings cover topics like rethinking CRMs, providing an open space for team members to reflect and share, and dreaming up new ways to engage with your audience. We wanted to share these innovative approaches as a way to share great work, to connect with our peers, to support each other, and maybe even to help you take away some actionable strategies and inspirations to implement your next big idea. This event tees up our awards show later today, where we'll celebrate our members' dedication to growing sustainable businesses and their commitment to excellence in local reporting that serves their communities. We hope you'll join us for that event at 6 p.m. Eastern, right back here. But now, without further ado, let's introduce our first Lion member for their one big idea. So, Matter News from Columbus, Ohio has developed an internal website that has boosted their operations by providing a directory and other resources to empower their team. Here to tell you about their website, lovingly named Smarty Pants, and how to create your own is Gray Matter Media and Matter News' own Cassie Young.
Hey everybody. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Cassie Young. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm coming at you from Columbus, Ohio, from Gray Matter Media and Matter News. I won't read too much about what we have going on at Matter. I have some information on the slide, but just for some general context about who we are that'll be relevant to this presentation. We are a 3-year-old nonprofit startup news organization. So we have a board. The current staff members are myself and one of the other co-founders. We run the whole organization and publication, and we're part of the Lion and Meta Revenue Generation Fellowship. So we're really fortunate that we are very soon going to be hiring our first full-time employee who is not one of us co-founders. So this tool is for any of you out there that have teams, but it's also, even if you're a one-person show, hopefully this presentation and the information that we provide will give you a little something to work with. So as Lisa sort of mentioned, let me move my slide here. I'm going to be introducing Smarty Pants to you today. So that's just what we've called our internal team site. But what Smarty Pants really is a comprehensive and souped up user-friendly organizational handbook and directory, which is meant to empower our employees, board members, and volunteers by equipping them with the information and tools they need to get their hands dirty. So real quick, I'm going to give you an overview of our internal team site and teach you how to make your own. So instead of providing this information about our organization in a linked PDF or some other traditional form of employee handbook, we opted for a Google site. So I'll tell you more about that in a second. But the great thing is it's searchable and it's just a little bit more user-friendly than a traditional manual or employee handbook. This site is where we document and communicate all important organizational information, our workflows, data systems, and et cetera. And one of our co-founders, Jalen Grisso, founded Smarty Pants and came up with the idea for this. So a lot of people I talk to don't know about Google Sites. Google Sites is free to all. It's you go and make one the same way you make a Word document. You just go a little bit further down in the menu. Hopefully y'all can see that here. And Google Sites is one of the options. So I've created one for a lot of different organizations I work with. I also have one for my personal life to keep things with my home and my puppy and all kinds of things straight. So really, whether you're a one-person show or you have a team, really having an internal site and documentation can save you hours upon hours of work if you just put a little bit of investment into it. And so you simply go to create a new Google Drive document, and that's where you can find Google Sites. So the great thing about Google Sites is there is a drag and drop editor. I have zero web skills. So if you're worried like, oh, I got to create a whole website, this is for people like me that have zero web skills. It's a very easy drag and drop editor. Hopefully these couple of screenshots give you just a little bit of an idea that you can pull different elements into here. If you're used to like MailChimp or something like that, it's almost similar the way that would work with just pulling in the different elements that you're interested in. So for any page on the site, you can click a button at the bottom right. So right here where the little edit button is, you can hit that from any page on the site to go straight into edit mode, which makes it very easy to keep up with. And you can set up menus like a traditional website, and it has 3 levels of submenus to help your team navigate through all of the information you have on here. We store crucial company information such as how our systems interact with one another, and we even create fundraising guides and all kinds of things that live on this site for our team. We also try to give them as actionable information as we can. So really the way the site's set up lends itself pretty well to creating little workflows and having expandable sections so that you can have a lot of information digested pretty easily. We also try to keep people just in the know in our operation about how does communication work? How are we structured and how can people find one another? We also try to give them just all the information that's relevant to their job. So brand guidelines, making sure that our brand design, our colors, all of that information is all in one place and is really easy to navigate for people. And then, of course, this will be relevant to a lot of you. We even have a lot of our editorial processes and resources digested here so that the team can easily access those different guides and things that we've put together, our style guide, for example. And we also use it to ensure everyone knows each other and their role. We keep our company organizational chart on here and links to where we have our listing of like contact information and things. And then we also have workflows, like I said. So even workflows, for example, on how to onboard employees, contractors, volunteers, there's board members, there's all kinds of different people involved in our operation. So keeping some of that straight can be really difficult without an internal site like this. And then, of course, workflows for all of these people so that they can really plug. The idea is that you're putting a little bit of investment here into something that's ultimately going to save you a ton of time and help empower the people who are working with you to be able to do more without having to talk to you as much. And like I said, even if you are just working on this alone, I refer to this all the time when I have to go file our taxes periodically to really save myself time. And so that's all I've got for you all. I actually am happy to share a link with you, and we have that out there publicly. So please do contact me if you have any questions. And thank you so much for your attention today.
Thank you, Cassie. What an incredible way to build in that operational resilience. So our second lightning talk speaker has found live events to be a great way to build community around her news business, increase brand awareness, and position LkldNow as the trusted news source for local news in Lakeland, Florida. To tell you about the journey to embracing events, especially virtual ones, and the impact it's had on LkldNow, please welcome Trinity Lorino.
Hello, thank you all for having me here today. I think this is actually my first Lions meeting, so I'm very excited and just a tiny bit nervous to be here. But as Lisa said, I'm here to talk about an idea of rather than scaling up, that you can scale down. We know that a lot of organizations have had a tremendous amount of success in the live event space, but I wanted to talk specifically about how a very small newsroom can actually take advantage of these organizations. So I called this presentation, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Live Event, which is honestly a lie. I haven't learned to stop worrying, and I doubt I ever will. But I have learned to embrace and lean into what live events can do for a local newsroom. So to give you a little bit of background about who we are LkldNow. As Lisa said again, we are independent. We're a nonprofit newsroom. We've been around for 6 years now. And we were founded by a veteran, like so many other organizations out there, we're founded by a veteran print journalist. Not me, I am the community engagement director. We were founded by our publisher, Barry Friedman, who may be out there listening right now. Hi, Barry, hope you're out there. So we are a small organization. Our revenue just passed 100,000 in the last year. But part of what Barry's vision for founding this organization digitally was that being digital lets you experiment with other mediums. It gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility. And so I've actually found in being small, we can be extremely nimble. And that lets us really take advantage of some of these events in ways that other medium really can't. We exist on the edge of the broadcast market for Tampa, and we don't really have any locally based broadcasters. So for us, being able to essentially go live across our social media platforms has been a real differentiator for us. So where we started with live events was exactly in what you'd expect, but like dovetails, with our journalistic purposes. We could do breaking news and deliver the full press conference, not just, a soundbite or a snippet, but the actual primary source material in real time to our audiences across our social media channels. We moved from that into live streaming political forums. Our mission is really to connect people to our community and cultivate civic engagement in Lakeland. And we really found that these forums were happening, but the audiences for them were really limited, and we could really, expand the reach of those political forums and help people be informed on local politics, particularly city level elections. And then when I started in 2019, where my primary job is to find the funds to run the organization, I added in our live concert. We just did the third one of these on Friday night, our News Aid concert. That one in 2018 actually generated about 20%, that one night generated about 20% of our annual revenue that year through sponsorships, ticket sales, and then also we were soliciting the recurring donations because, of course, we take part in Newsmatch and we get those matching funds from that. Now, the pandemic has taken its toll on the attendance, but that event still is one of the best resources that we have for actually converting the casual reader into a new donor and building out our audience. So, and it's just a great time to share our local talent or our local musicians. Oh, sorry, I went backwards here. How did that happen? Sorry, technical problems. All right, come on. Here we go. So what's changed and what we're doing now, we've actually expanded into even more where before we were doing mostly just the really newsworthy things. During the pandemic, we stretched ourselves and started doing more community and cultural events, including concerts by our local symphony and our Juneteenth event. And I have 1 minute left, so sorry, let me just talk a little bit about the advantages of doing these live events. We really feel like they have diversified our reporting and they help us reach a more diverse audience. They foster a deeper level of community engagement and they build our brand awareness. And let me skip here to our key kind of takeaways. If you're a small newsroom and you're thinking about building out a live event, I'd say you're never too small, but finding the right partners is really, really key. And audio is always going to be your most important element. If there's something that you have to spend money on, I recommend spending it on a good audio engineer, whether you're doing live streaming, in person, or a hybrid event. That's going to be key. Of course, pre-plan as much as possible. And lastly, and appropriately, things will go wrong and you will be forgiven for them. This is the upside of the pandemic, is that people have gotten a lot more forgiving for technical mistakes or, failures that happen in the last minute. So this is actually a great time to experiment and, see what kind of live events that your audience wants to participate in. So thank you.
Thanks, Trinity. It's so great to see how these interactive events can lead to real and lasting dialogue with your community. Next up, we focus on a clever and head-on approach to supporting your team, both emotionally and professionally, by providing the space to speak openly. At Converse in Montreal, they set aside time every Friday for freelancers and staff to reflect on the week, to cope with trauma that can come with this grueling work, to celebrate wins, and to learn from each other. Layla Savage is here to tell you more about La Converse's Bitching Fridays.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Layla Savage. I'm the founder of La Converse. So I'm sorry for the name and the swear words, but we couldn't really find another way to define what do we do at La Converse to really try to make our team do better, generally in terms of the stories we report. So at La Converse, we really democratize journalism by putting stories at the forefront of their mission, stories that aren't heard. We aim to be community-powered, relationship-based, trauma-informed. And the next 5 minutes, I really want to tell you about one idea that helped our team, not only with mental health, but also with unity and training. We often report on trauma, debt, racism, domestic violence, forced eviction, discrimination, and suffering. And to say that we aren't affected by it would be a total lie. The stories we report on often concern our own communities, and that's actually a path we privilege. But regardless or not, or whether we cover our own communities, we can't remain cold when hearing, seeing, and reporting on topics pertaining to trauma. While the traditional newsrooms were taught to develop tough skin, at La Converse, we actually decided to change that and take time to unpack our trauma with our weekly Bitchin' Fridays. So how do we do that? So essentially, every Friday at around 3 or 4, we get a bottle of wine, some folks bring snacks, and we take a moment to talk about how hard our week has been in terms of the stories we're reporting on, how can we do a better job, and also what has really resonated with us. Over the last year, Bitchin' Friday has been a time for staff and freelancers to take time to learn from one another. And what I really appreciate is that it's really a time when everyone becomes horizontal, there's no more structure, it's really a time to unpack. Now, you may tell me, how's that different from happy hour with colleagues, right? Well, one, there's a pandemic, so we can't do happy hour. But two, it's also during office hours and it's in the office. So create a space for people to be at ease. And I think it's important that it shows that it's something that we're doing internally as a community, as a team. And it's also a time where people can just let their anxiety out and say, this really worried me. This is how I felt when I spoke to a mom who lost her son, because it happens often, unfortunately. We listen, we give each other advice. And sometimes when we're really low, we also have guests. It's an event where we invite both freelancers and staff, so really to create a community. And we had recently a retired journalist, Lisa Brian Baines, who came to visit us and gave us cupcakes and really showed us a lot of support when we were low. So I think that it's a great idea that you can apply. Here's what our team had to say about it, because I don't want to be preaching something that I haven't asked my team about. So my colleague Christelle says she feels validated and she loves the wine. But more than that, she said that it's something that it's a time to really take in, feel validated, and also, talk about the imposter syndrome. It's a time where she feels closer to her colleagues, and we really learn how to collaborate with one another. We don't have to pretend to have it together, and it's a time to talk about mental health. For Diamond, it's a good way to unwind from the week and take in all that has happened. Journalism is really a fast-paced industry, and it's really good to have a moment to step out of that pace and take time to reflect. For my colleague Maya, it's a nice way to also transition into the weekend. We're doing really important work, and sometimes we might want to bring it back home. So the idea of doing it at the end of the week on Friday and really taking the moment so we don't carry our mission at home and leave it at the office is something that's really important. And it also helps us decentralize, so we really share our struggles. And then from our other colleague, Julien, he also said that because La Converse includes people from different walks of life, it's really a moment to learn from one another. It's really essential to our exchange. And he says, I think that what sets La Converse apart from other media is that these kinds of events shatter the stoic and objective image of the journalist by allowing us to put our guts on the table. And he also loves the wine. So how can you do it? Here are some guidelines that we created for you to have a Bitchin' Friday recipe that you can bring to your newsroom. So for one, a bottle of wine, some snacks, some virgin cocktails, something festive. Block your Friday afternoon from 4 and as long as you need it We don't have assignments. That's what we decided here at La Converse. Bring in an open heart, notice what your employees tell you during the week. Sometimes it's just a sentence, and sometimes I say, let's keep it in and we'll come back to it Friday with the whole team. Once we talked about online harassment, and it was really important for us to have that moment to talk about it with the team. And we usually come back to such events on Fridays. Decenter yourself. This one's for the leaders. You're not perfect. You're not going to be perfect. You can't know everything. And one of the best interview tips we got from our team at La Converse was from Marine during a Bitchin' Friday, where she said, she was talking about how she's able to better connect with communities. And she just says, do you have any questions for me about my approach before I begin? And I had a similar approach, but I didn't ask it that way. And I felt that the way that Marine had asked it was really much more representative of what we were trying to convey. So I use it now, and I tell our new reporters to use it too. Be vulnerable. Journalism is a toxic industry where we turn good people into competitors, and we're all fighting for something greater than ourselves, justice, serving our audience. So take the time to also bitch and share how hard your week has been, what worries you, because the decorum is also really different for us. It's healthy discussion. So take the time to explain your lived experiences to one another, be humble, practice active listening. Finally, it's a safe space where we don't judge each other. Everyone's responsible for making sure the space is safe. And Bitchin' Friday should be fun. It's a moment to celebrate your wins, complain about your week, but also celebrate your team. So I really hope you can bring it back to your newsrooms and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Layla, for sharing with us how you're supporting your staff's emotional needs. That's really important. Our fourth lightning chat today comes to us as a pair. Michelle Kanar and Nissa Reeve from Borderless Magazine in Chicago will discuss how they drove engagement using comics and grassroots outreach to reach their audience and amplify the voices of immigrants and communities of color in Chicago. Welcome, Michelle and Nissa, to share more about this creative approach.
Hi, I'm Nissa Reeve, Executive Director and co-founder of Borderless Magazine, and I'm here with my co-founder, Michelle Kanar.
Hey everyone, I'm the co-founder and art director of Borderless Magazine.
And today we want to talk about how to drive engagement through comics and grassroots outreach. Oops. Borderless Magazine is a member-supported nonprofit newsroom covering immigrants and communities of color in Chicago. We are working to dismantle racist and harmful coverage of immigrants and reimagining immigration journalism for a more just and equitable future. 44% of our audience reads our articles in Spanish, and just under a quarter of our audience identifies as an organizer working on immigration or other social justice issues. Our audience is largely young, with 43% identifying as under age 35. We believe immigrant voices are powerful and should be at the center of any coverage about immigration and immigrant communities. That's why we collaborate with our audience in storytelling and engagement projects, like our recent comic book, which was made especially for a young and diverse audience.
Yeah, so with that in mind, we specifically reached out to Southeast Youth Alliance. They're a local environmental justice group here in Chicago, and we asked them to work on this project to create the comic Reclaiming the Sacrifice Zone. Specifically, we worked with organizer-writer Maria Maynes and illustrator Mike Centeno. And together, as a team, we documented the battle of a group of young Latinx organizers against one of Chicago's most notorious air polluters trying to relocate into their neighborhood. So here you can see the cover of the comic. It's in both English and Spanish. Mike did a beautiful job. And so we distributed hundreds of this comic in person to residents, to government representatives, and other stakeholders. And then in addition, it was incorporated into the curriculum for Chicago Public Schools and for the Chicago Park District. So it's pretty cool. And I think Something important to note is, mostly we publish online, but we thought it was important for this comic to be in print and for us to meet people where they were at. So to go out into the community, either at events that were organized by the stakeholders you saw on the previous slide, or events that they were attending. So here are some of the events that our engagement reporter, Diane Bukhalil, went to with the comic. Next slide. Thanks, Nissa. Yeah, so this is only over a course of a few months. We've just started doing this. We're going to keep on, but we already have 6% of our current newsletter subscribers through this engagement, which I think is awesome. In addition to that, this is a really specific segment, right, that we can track and target. We have them all tagged of where they came from. And yeah, and then of those 6% are already considered loyal readers. And the way we define that is they're opening up our newsletter, our weekly newsletter, 75% of the time, which is kind of amazing. So what does this mean? Number one, they're going through our audience engagement funnel super fast. They're from awareness to reader to an engaged reader. So that's really incredible. And then additionally, we're providing this product. I think it's really important to have an opportunity for our audience to see themselves authentically portrayed in the media. And then in addition, we're meeting the information needs by providing bilingual coverage and by going out into community and meeting them where they're at and giving them these physical copies. Okay, so the last thing I want to leave you with is this is a wonderful photo. This is Oscar Sanchez's grandmother. Oscar was featured in the comic. He's also Southeast Youth Alliance member, and he helped inform some of the stuff that we included in the comic. And this is him showing the comic to his grandmother, and she's there reading it in her native language, which I think is amazing. And then I want to leave you with this quote that she says, change doesn't come from fear, it comes from action. And I think that's really important when you're thinking about your engagement models going forward. Don't be afraid to try something new. That's what we did, and it worked really well for us. Yeah, so if you have any questions or you just want to get in touch, you can contact either of us. Those are our emails. And yeah, thanks for giving us this space.
Thank you, Michelle and Nissa. I love how this brings together collaboration, experimentation, and creativity as you meet your audience where they are. So we're going to pop over to the Long Beach Post, which has taken a direct approach to engaging their community by forming a community editorial board. To talk about how this helps them stay connected to their audience and to share some other lessons learned is Stephanie Rivera.
Hello, thank you so much for having me among all these amazing presenters. My name is Stephanie Herrera. I'm the Community Engagement Editor for the Long Beach Post. And the Long Beach Post is a local digital-only publication here based in Long Beach, California. So last year, we launched a community editorial board, really to make sure that we were uplifting voices that were reflective of our diverse community. And we wanted to make sure that we were focusing on people and really uplifting those who had lived experiences were just as valuable as those who had degrees or specific expertise. So the way we did it was pretty straightforward with the application process. We asked for a 500-word essay about what they love about the city, what some issues are. We really required that they live in the city as well to make sure that these are residents that know the needs in the city. We wanted to make sure they respected the diversity of opinions, that they were available for meetings, and we wanted to reduce the barrier for participation by offering stipends as well. So in total, there were 143 applicants, and within a couple of months, an internal selection committee was able to receive and choose the final 7. So this is the community editorial board that we chose. These folks produced a total of 15 editorials, 12 opinion pieces, and their subjects ranged in everything from homelessness to government accountability, education, and social justice issues. So the pieces that were published, you had the editorials, you had the opinion pieces. But I really wanted to drive home the point of making sure that, kind of having a solutions-based lens and news you can use. So having that kind of mindset for their editorials and opinion pieces, when they would write pieces like about homelessness, they also created companion pieces about lists where readers can find out how they can help combat homelessness. And here in this example here, the great thing with this is that 2 of the board members, their day jobs were working with the homeless community. So they knew exactly what ways to help that really benefited the community. And another point too, that we also went beyond the written pieces. We produced podcasts and hosted live roundtable discussions as well. So a big thing about this too that wasn't really expected, but was a really great outcome from this project is that the reshared resources with our newsroom. So the board members became sources for our local reporters. So they were able to become media experts for us and really be able to speak on the nuanced issues happening in Long Beach. In this example here, there was one board member who was a parent advocate. She was very involved in the school district. So she had me ask our local school district some specific data. And when I got it back, I noticed that it wasn't something that we had reported on yet. So I shared it with the newsroom, with the editors and reporters. And the story on the left is what was published. And based on that, the board was able to write the editorial on the right. So my role as the liaison between the board and the newsroom, I would say I average anywhere between 10 to 20 hours a week working with them. And this included everything from setting agendas, leading weekly meeting discussions. I would edit their drafts, find studies or reports, and file public records requests to help with their opinion pieces and editorials. I also was able to communicate any story tips between the board and the newsroom, and then making sure to connect the board members as sources for our reporters. And I would say the 2 major tools that we used was Google Drive and Zoom, because during this first year, the whole term, they only communicated on Zoom. Because of the pandemic, it wasn't safe and we didn't feel comfortable having them being in person, gathering in person. So some of the key takeaways, I think it's very important if you're going to be doing this kind of work to create, kind of like an exit survey or a feedback loop to make sure that you're always iterating and improving upon these kind of initiatives. So I just did a simple Google form, about 17 questions that asked them how their experience was, what they liked about it, what they didn't, how we can improve upon. And 2 of the biggest points were, we would have weekly meetings, but I think what they wanted and what they preferred would be maybe reducing the number of meetings where they were gathering to 1 or 2 a month to allow for time in between for them to actually write their drafts, to be able to peer edit and find that time on their own. And then the second big one is providing more onboarding within the editorial training. So they knew exactly what creates a publishable editorial or opinion piece. And we kind of did it, case by case along the way with their pieces, but having kind of, that very focused, maybe first 1 or 2 meetings just on this subject and what an editorial piece entails and, and everything like that as well. So that would be my suggestion for you, to making sure that you're always improving upon and being able to listen to the feedback that you're getting. It's not going to be perfect, but it's about letting them know you're on the same journey, and being able to just uplift these voices is the main goal for all of us. So that's my presentation. If you have any questions, you can reach out on Twitter or email me, stephanie@lbpost.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. That's so inspiring that you're bringing the community into the center of your work and that you're also supporting it internally. That's very awesome. Our next speaker will discuss how their publication has reimagined CRMs to make sure their audience reliably receives responses to their emails and comments. Here to tell us more is Sam Hoisington from Madison Minutes.
Hello, thank you so much. And all these chats have been so fun so far. And I am here to talk about how we manage our reader relationships here at Madison Minutes. So first, since we're so brand new, we were started in April. I actually want to tell you a little bit more about Madison Minutes if we haven't gotten a chance to meet each other. We are primarily a newsletter product right now. So we started 6 months ago, and we have a daily morning update that goes out Monday through Friday. And then on Sundays, we send out an events post. But as we're kind of getting our our wits about us, we are looking to move into some more original journalism in the solutions and service space next year. But as I was getting started with Madison Minutes, I did a lot of research in my community. And honestly, since it was a pandemic, this really looked like harassing people at a dog park to see about their local news habits. But eventually, I came up with some findings. And this was kind of what the core assumptions that Madison Minutes as a news organization was based off of. And so these three components are: people want to be heard more, they want a deeper relationship with journalists in the area. 2 is people want more service journalism, just news you can use. And also, we have a hunch that people want more solutions journalism. But today, I'm really just focusing on that first one. So listening better is just, I think, an idea, right? That's just like something to aspire to. I can't just go, we listen better and prove my point somehow. What we needed was a measurable and scalable system for managing reader communications so that nobody would ever get lost. So when we're starting a relationship, if somebody sends you a news tip or something like that, often it's about something they're vulnerable about. And if you miss that, that's just one more thing in your day-to-day work that you missed or didn't get to, but it can really destroy that relationship. So, and when I was looking at the competitors that we have here in town, we really consider them more of collaborators, but other news organizations in town, I never felt like the newspaper didn't want to listen to me. I would never say that. I think they have the best intentions too. What they're missing, what other organizations in town are missing, are these scalable and trackable systems. So one major component of this is our CRM that we got. And so don't we all love a little bit of plagiarism journalism? I totally took this from salesforce.com, which is just one CRM out there. But basically, a customer relationship management software is just a place for all of your relationship data to live in one place, right? And when we went to look for a CRM, we wanted 3 major things. One is we wanted all of our messages and emails in just one place. We wanted one portal to log in and see everything. I didn't want people spending time logging to Facebook, Twitter, all these different things, all in one place. We wanted to integrate our membership and sales data into this too. And we also, of course, hoped that this would make us more productive. And we tried a bunch of different things. I wish I could say I tried a bunch of different things so that you don't have to, but I think, all of these could be good fits for a different kind of organization. HubSpot, Jira, Freshdesk, we tried all of these, and we went with something called Front. And we went with Front for a couple specific reasons. One is a native Gmail integration, which was just like the best thing ever for us. So I'm going to talk about that on the next slide. But we also liked Front specifically because it was really good at syncing multiple calendars per person. And both me and my co-founder are freelancing in other places right now. It also had a ton of integrations and was still pretty simple to use, even with all those features. This is straight up a tangent, y'all, but the native Gmail integration was so important to us because sometimes when you email customer support lines and stuff like that, you get these automated responses that assign you a ticket number, but we didn't want to do that. We wanted everybody to feel like they were a human. When they emailed us, I didn't want it to feel like they went into a ticketing system. So I really loved that Front was able to send emails like I was a regular person, because I am. So we're talking about CRM and the abstract sort of thing. So I want to show you a couple different things that our CRM does. Our CRM gives us context. So it has all this data and it's combining it for us. So when Chris messages me, I can click on his profile and say, oh, Chris is a member or Chris isn't a current member. I can see what we've talked about, right? And all of that lives in one place now. So I don't have to be looking at everything else while I'm trying to talk to Chris. Our CRM also allows us to assign follow-up tasks. I think you'll find this in Front and everywhere else. I never wanted to have any sort of ambiguity about who was going to respond to what. So now me and my co-founder go in here and we say, you respond, I respond. Whatever we do, it gets assigned. Our CRM lets us quantify our communications, so that was really important to us. I can't just say we listen better and make it true, right? This allows us to track response time and a bunch of other things too. And our progress so far. So we lose a whole lot less things. We can onboard people faster. We're about to hire our first intern here next month, and we know that they'll be able to get involved because they only have one login. They'll be able to get up to speed a lot quicker. We also established a new rule, and that's if you can't integrate with Front, you can't use it. Because again, we wanted everything in one place, and we're locking down and committing to this. But while we started tracking things, we found that our average response time was 22 hours. And I'll be honest, that's not up to my personal desires for Madison Minutes or my co-founders. So now we have a baseline though that we can improve. And our next steps here are to actually upgrade to a higher plan. So this one would be $1,200 for 2 seats, but this is sort of like the God tier mode of the CRM, which unlocks a bunch of integrations and analytics. We want to start tracking that response time regularly and setting goals for improvement. So if it's 22 hours now, what do we want it to be 6 months from now, right? And we want to integrate our advertising sales data. I just haven't gotten to that yet. Just like you, I have a lot of things that I do on a day-to-day basis. So, and we also want to make better use of our response template features. And I think that's just about it. If anybody has any questions, listen, I'm not a CRM expert, but I would love to talk more about my personal journey and maybe what yours would look like.
Thank you, Sam. A tool that works great for your team and your audience. What a dream. So we're going to hear again from Travis Johnson from Queerency to talk about his video campaign that he's building around his holiday queer gift guide.
Thank you. Did you know that the inventor of Sirius XM radio is a transgender woman? Are you aware that both PayPal and Facebook have gay co-founders? And what if I told you that one of the hottest VCs in Silicon Valley today is a Black queer woman? Now, if you knew none of these fun facts, it's okay. Most people don't, but it's not because these business leaders are hiding in the closet. It's because the mainstream business media consistently overlooks them. You see, when I first came out, loved ones told me that I was just throwing away all of my career opportunities. And for a while, I almost believed them. And that's because as a Black queer person, I didn't really see myself represented in queer business media and had no real role models for what it could look like to bring my full self to work. I had no idea that there are more than 1.4 million queer entrepreneurs in the United States, or that they contribute an estimated $1.7 trillion and tens of thousands of jobs to our economy every year. And the reason I didn't know that is that because there has not been a consistent news source that covers queer entrepreneurship with the dignity and the depth that it deserves. So that's why I started Queerency. Next slide. Hey, I'm Travis Johnson, and I'm the founder of Queerency. Queerency is a digital media startup that brings the best in queer business news to LGBT entrepreneurs, business leaders, and our allies. You can think of us as Business Insider for queer folks. Queerency tells the stories that no one else is telling and speaks to an audience that no one else is speaking to. And here's our big idea, that in the next 2 to 3 years, queer-owned businesses and entrepreneurs will reach the same level of prominence in the cultural zeitgeist that we see with women-owned businesses and Black-owned businesses today. So we are shaping that conversation and serving that audience now. Next slide. And in just a little over a year of existence, we've made a lot of progress. We were an inaugural member of the first cohort of the Google News Initiative Startups Lab Bootcamp. And since then, we've been steadily growing our audience of young, diverse, and incredibly engaged queer entrepreneurs across our website, our weekly newsletter, and our Instagram page. Next slide. And now is a really exciting time for us because next week we're launching our second annual Holiday Queer gift guide, which is one of our largest, actually not one of, our largest lead magnet of the year for helping us get new newsletter subscribers. Last year, it accounted for a full 1/3 of our newsletter subscribers. Next slide. However, last quarter, Q3, we reached a bit of a wall in our growth. And so we had a big idea for how to climb over it. Next slide, please. So at the top of our reader acquisition funnel is Instagram. And as you can see, the vast majority of our content has been text and image based. Now, we normally have 1 to 2 posts every couple of weeks that go semi-viral, but next slide, we noticed that despite our content not changing, our follower acquisition was starting to decline, and that corresponded with the rise of Instagram putting more of an emphasis on video content. Next slide, please. And so our big idea was that we were going to invest in smart video content and that would help us to grow our audience by 1,000 followers in 60 days. Next slide. And this is the experiment that we're currently undergoing. We're working with freelance content creators to produce smart, engaging, and viral content for use across social platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, and even YouTube. Now, we will try this for 60 days, see how it goes. And if it doesn't work the way we thought, then we can just pivot our strategy to focus on other forms of new reader acquisition. Next slide. And so the ultimate goal with Queerency and this campaign of video ambassadors is to create a world where queer people can see themselves represented in business media so that no one has to feel the way that I did when I first came out. And if you'd like to help us create that world, please head to queerency.com/holidayqueer and pre-download our gift guide, which launches next week. Thank you.
Wonderful. Travers, thank you so much. Isn't that amazing when you can reinforce what you're doing and get the word out and scale that wall in such a smart way? We've heard from so many people with their amazing big ideas, and now we'd like to hear from you. Wow, we've really got some great ideas going on in that doc, which is wonderful. I'm just going to share a few here. We've got Spokane Faves, which I hope I've pronounced that right, but I know I got the city right because that's my hometown. An idea: once a month, we hold a community forum featuring our writers and a guest panelist about a topic that's getting traction on the website. It's not a big moneymaker, but it builds community, which is, of course, amazing. Madison Minutes has quite a few marvelous ideas here. One is donating money for email subscriptions at partner nonprofits. Another is using surveys in newsletters as paid membership lead gen. And then another one is a favorite here, creating a vacation fund for news entrepreneurs so that they can take a break and know that their publication is in good hands. Tap into Westfield uses Trello boards to help the managing editor and I'm assuming the founder keep track of projects together. The Jolt, which is the Journal of Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater, shows up at public events to have conversations about people's news habits, about their attitudes, and they usually come away with about 30 to 50 newsletter opt-ins, which is really marvelous. So thank you all for sharing these ideas. I hope everyone feels inspired and ready to try something new on their own. So thank you for joining us today and for all of our marvelous presenters. It was such a joy to hear what they're up to. We hope you've gained some new practices and strategies that you can bring back to your publications. Please feel free to interact with any of our presenters via the News Entrepreneur Slack community to ask any follow-up questions. And of course, I want to remind you that we'll all be celebrating the incredible work of our members again tonight at the 2021 Lion Local Journalism Awards. It's going to be such a fun and inspiring way to recognize our achievements in building successful, sustainable news businesses. We're going to acknowledge folks who've done the hard and important work of implementing creative revenue strategies, increasing their operational resilience, and of course, honoring outstanding coverage on topics like elections and voting, protests and movement, and the COVID-19 pandemic. We're also really looking forward to recognizing one member who's really embodied Lion's spirit and its mission and has been exemplary in supporting other members as we all embark on this rich and rewarding work. We hope to see you back again here at 6 p.m. Eastern, ready to cheer on our finalists. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a wonderful day.